The thing that threw me for a loop was this guy did a follow-up and he said, lots of you asking what treatment I did to recover. Tried several medications and one experimental one, which was brutal. What seems to have worked for me was a combination of cutting sugar/carbs, doing PRP treatments, not cheap, and using Nutrafol. No, they aren't a sponsor. What's up guys, Derek, moreplates.com. Today we're going to be talking about Dave Rubin report. So he posted on Twitter, my girl just shrieked in the middle of getting an illegal haircut after 5 years of dealing with alopecia areata, which started when I was first speaking up and getting massive amounts of hate. I officially have all my hair back. Today is a good day. So, and he says, and for the record, I've never colored my hair in any way. Not sure where the color is so different, just glad it's back. So you see this massive patch on the back side here. This is consistent not with androgenic alopecia, but with alopecia areata. So anyone who thinks, you know, they have alopecia areata, like oftentimes men will mistake their hair loss and think, oh, it's just stress. Oh, it's just this or it's just that. And it's like, I'm not going to dismiss the possibility that there is some sort of like feedback system by which your body's adrenal hormones and cortisol and whatnot is going to impact the actual hormone signaling in the tissue itself that is responsible for androgenic alopecia. I'm not doubting that. However, when you are experiencing chronic stress, it's not like you're going to see accelerated androgenic alopecia in a traditional male pattern baldness fashion. Usually, like maybe you will, but usually what you'll see from like an actual like heavy duty stress, like something very bad in your life happens, you know, you're, I don't know, like in massive amounts of debt, people are giving you a huge amount of hate, like I guess the Rubin report guy here, Dave Rubin, and the outcome of that is not consistent like diffuse thinning where you have something that is, you know, consistent with androgenic induced miniaturization. Rather, you get like autoimmune related issues, notably an actual like representation of hair loss that is not consistent whatsoever with traditional male pattern baldness. So you see this giant patch that just fell off the side of his head. Like one of my friends too was experiencing very, very significant life stress at one time via his job. And he just randomly had like a patch just like go totally bald on the side of his head. And then when it grew in, it was white. And then it ended up getting pigmented after that. And it went back to normal after the stress was kind of removed. But that like heavy duty stress, it induced hair loss, not in a traditional fashion, rather in just like localized, like autoimmune related like pockets essentially. And that's where it's super obvious it's alopecia areata and nothing to do with actual androgens. So the thing that threw me for a loop was this guy did a follow-up and he said, lots of you asking what treatment I did to recover. Tried several medications and one experimental one, which was brutal. What seems to have worked for me was a combination of cutting sugar/carbs, doing PRP treatments, not cheap, and using Nutrafol. No, they aren't a sponsor. So, you know, I don't really blame him. You know, a guy who doesn't research into pharmacology about hair loss, and he's probably just looking up like best hair loss remedy, you know, hair loss supplement, blah, 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 alopecia areata cure, whatever it is on Google. And then he gets the top ranked supplement that is the best positioned SEO wise, and he finds Nutrafol. PRP, is it going to make a difference? If you have alopecia areata, you know, maybe it's worth looking into. I don't really know for sure, to be honest, but I know for androgenic alopecia, it's extremely, like when I say hit or miss, I mean, it's like, oh, it's notoriously miss with very minor hits. Like, I don't know very many people who've had success with it, and it seems like a huge waste of money, unless you're literally like buying a centrifuge online and spinning the PRP at home yourself and can just like replicate the thing like a million times over without having to spend copious amounts of money, sure, go for it. But if you're going to literally go to a clinic and pay top dollar for it, is it going to be worth it for actual male pattern baldness? No, not at all. And for, you know, cutting sugar and carbs, it's like, okay, if you're insulin resistant, sure, like maybe that might be something you need to do. So, or at least restricting them or doing something. Ideally, I'm not going to get into the dietary intervention, but anyways, the Nutrafol is mainly what I'm going to talk about. So is it going to make much of a difference? Like if you are experiencing chronic stress, the logical conclusion, rather than band-aiding it with pharmacology, which, you know, maybe it helps a little bit, is what is the root cause of the issue? Okay, it's stress. So what do? Like, you have to find ways to lower your stress, whether that is fixing your sleep hygiene, whether that is, I don't know enough about this guy's situation to give any kind of useful feedback, nor am I a person who should be giving stress management advice anyways. But, you know, it's pretty obvious that if you have stressful things in your life, like removing them is going to remove the burden that is inducing the alopecia areata to begin with. And adding a Nutrafol supplement on top is not going to rectify your issue. You know, maybe after he removed the stress and started fixing his life and whatnot, or getting out of whatever he was involved in, or just being able to deal with it better, or whatever it is, you know, maybe it seems like the Nutrafol is helping, but in reality, how much is it really helping? Negligibly, because it's designed to literally fight male pattern baldness, not alopecia areata, or to fix a vitamin imbalance or deficiency, rather, not an imbalance, but a deficiency. And the problem is the likelihood that you have hair loss as a result of a chronic deficiency when your hair looks like this, like it's blatant alopecia areata. Now, adding in something that is, here's the ingredients for Nutrafol: saw palmetto. So this is supposed to be a, you know, like the natural 5-alpha reductase inhibitor that's, you know, side effect free. And it's like, if it was side effect free, and if it is side effect free, then it just doesn't work. Like, that's like the whole point of it, is to try and inhibit 5-AR to some extent to achieve a like toned down version of finasteride, which if you're doing that successfully, you like that, it's impossible to avoid side effects. Like, that's the whole point, is to inhibit DHT. So if you have saw palmetto and you are claiming it has any benefit, like, first of all, the likelihood it's going to inhibit DHT significantly in the scalp is low. And if it did, then it would not be a natural remedy that's, you know, side effect free. It would be a natural remedy that has a shit ton of side effects too, at least for the individuals prone. You know, finasteride is very well tolerated too, but it's like, you might as well be on finasteride at that point if saw palmetto was actually useful. And for most people, it just doesn't cut the bill, unfortunately. Like, you might as well be graduating up to a microdose of finasteride at that point if you're willing to even implement this for the mechanism of action at which it would be implemented. Like, your whole intention of using it is to inhibit DHT systemically, which has absolutely nothing to do with your alopecia areata. But if that was your goal and you were experiencing male pattern baldness, personally, I think you'd be better off just microdosing finasteride, like literally going, you know, 0.2 milligrams or lower and seeing what happens, rather than using a mega dose of some natural product that is extremely hit or miss in the clinical data, actually more miss than hit from what I've seen in practical application, and is not going to, the ultimate goal is just to achieve a shitty version of finasteride, essentially. Marine collagen is literally having collagen in a tiny pill going to make much of a difference? No. Like, if you ever seen like actual collagen powders that people are having, or like hydrolyzed collagen powders, are you having what can fit in a little pill? Like, no, this is not going to provide any kind of actual tangible amount that is substantial enough to kind of yield any sort of benefit from a dietary perspective. If you want to have a sufficient amount of collagen in your diet, then get it either through whole foods or have a sufficient amount through supplementation. Is it going to make a massive difference on your androgenic alopecia? Fuck no, unfortunately. Maybe it plays a role, again, if you have dietary deficiencies. Yeah, you can have hair loss, you can have brittle hair, you can have poor quality hair. But at the end of the day, is it playing a massive role in your miniaturization? Not really, unfortunately. So marine collagen in a pill, I would not hold too much merit in that. Ashwagandha, I actually like ashwagandha for anti-stress, and I can understand, like, I think he would have been better off with, you know, potentially just ashwagandha and curcumin separately, just because it's like, unless you're vitamin E deficient, like this tocotrienol complex, it's like pretty much just a fancy word for vitamin E, concentrated form of vitamin E that improves hair growth and density. So it's like implying that it's like some specialized form of it that you're not going to get from food, or that it's just like specialized for hair loss, when in reality, like, plug your diet into, what's the site called? Chronometer.com, Chronometer, I believe, and see where your micronutrients and minerals are at. See if you're deficient in anything. You know, maybe it's just your diet that is vitamin E deficient. Is adding in a supplemental amount of tocotrienol complex going to make up for your, you know, shitty diet? Like, at the end of the day, a lot of this stuff is going to derive back to your diet model if it's sufficient to achieve enough micro and macronutrients to actually grow hair. Again, though, if you have an autoimmune attack, literally attacking your hair follicles, it's not going to make a massive difference in terms of how, if you're yes, if you're deficient, you're not going to grow hairs easily, but at the end of the day, you've got to deal with the stress in some way. And it's like, that's ashwagandha. That might help, you know, helps cortisol a little bit, at least transiently. I have it in our cortisol blocker product because I think it is actually worthwhile and can actually calm you down and make you relaxed. But is it enough does it do anything for androgenic alopecia? I don't think so, to be honest. You know, perhaps if you had stress-induced hair loss, alopecia areata might have some benefit at a high enough dose. I don't know what the dose is in Nutrafol, but I think you would be better off just buying this separately if your goal was like anxiety / stress relief, blah, blah, blah. Curcumin, obviously a lot of you guys know how good of an anti-inflammatory it is. It also has interesting applications as a selective androgen receptor degrader, at least in its, not in its parent form, but there is, I believe, like I don't know, there's like some like isoform of like curcumin or something that is like a potent SARD, S-A-R-D, selective androgen receptor degrader, which can actually like, almost like a modulator, rather it is something that like inhibits like gene expression, like subsequent to AR activation. It's kind of weird how it works, but it's an interesting tangent of hair loss research that I've been digging into lately. But, you know, taking curcumin orally, again, is it going to be a, you know, magnificent hair loss remedy for androgenic alopecia? Not really, you know, not really in my opinion. Horsetail, like I would curcumin just for general health. Like that's great, you know, anti-inflammation, great, especially if you're chronically stressed. Not a bad thing to have at a good enough dose. Horsetail. Honestly, the rest, kelp, resveratrol. Yeah, there's like some longevity research that has a lot of hype around it about resveratrol. But it's like at the end of the day, horsetail, kelp, resveratrol, is it going to make a difference in terms of scalp DHT, scalp testosterone levels, AR activation in the scalp? No, it's not. And as far as your actual alopecia areata, is it going to make a difference either? Like, no, not really, in my opinion. I think you have to deal with the root cause. You know, maybe some of the supplements might be useful. You have some ashwagandha for some, you know, calm yourself down at nighttime, be able to get into a state of relaxation before trying to go to sleep. Curcumin for some anti-inflammation. Obviously, if you're stressed, you're chronically going to essentially be inducing an inflammatory state in yourself. So, not bad things to have, but the whole thing is definitely not responsible for just fixing his thing. His body became more resilient, was able to handle the stress, and or the stress just reduced itself in his life. And that's majorly what caused it. I don't think that after 5 years of doing it, that adding in a oral over-the-counter supplement that is designed not for alopecia areata, like this is marketed, as far as I know, for male pattern baldness. So just looking at it from the perspective of male pattern baldness, is this a supplement that I would, you know, recommend adding into your protocol? No, to be honest. Like I would recommend some of these supplements separately, perhaps, depending on the person. But at the end of the day, like the only thing you can really argue has a like targeted action that would be significant in inhibiting androgen-induced miniaturization would be the saw palmetto. And at the end of the day, in practical application, it's just like a weak, shitty finasteride that just does not fit the bill. And you would be far better off with microdosing finasteride if you are somebody prone to side effects. Start at a very low dose, a very, very low dose, much lower than the dose, you know, prescribed in the clinical literature. Like not your 1 milligram tablet. You can go much lower than that and still get you can still get like very substantial results, which most people won't tell you. And actually target the enzyme with a actual therapy that is designed to target the enzyme specifically, not something that might have satellite interaction with a bunch of different things because it's a natural therapy. Not really, it's just a fucking plant that is not designed to stop hair loss. It's just found in nature, and not that stuff in nature is bad necessarily, but it's like when you're achieving a shittier version of an already designed drug that has a targeted approach to how it works and has like no significant satellite interaction with other shit in the body at a very tiny dose relative to the massive dose you need of saw palmetto to achieve even a negligible effect of this, it's kind of a no-brainer in my opinion. So as far as his recovery, you know, it's great to see that he got the recovery. How much do I think that Nutrafol played into that? Not very much. I think maybe the PRP helped a little bit. Cutting sugar and carbs if he was insulin resistant, you know, obviously that would play a decent role too. But at the end of the day, a lot of this would come down to lifestyle and your actual like ability to deal with stress. You know, how resilient is your body? How good is your sleep? Notably, if you are even deprived somewhat of sleep, it's going to have a massive impact on how well you can handle emotional trauma and stress. So there are a lot of different aspects you could come at this from. And for me, I don't think any of these things were, you know, revolutionary that just like fixed the shit. You know, after 5 years of it, you know, maybe they had a compounding effect to some extent, but at the end of the day, if you have androgenic alopecia or alopecia areata, do I think some of these like over-the-counter supplements are really worth using? Not really. You know, like I think ashwagandha is, you know, worthwhile separately if you are under chronic stress or you just need that relaxation. And curcumin, obviously something I strongly believe in from a health aspect, unless, you know, some research comes out that, you know, convinces me otherwise. But for now, it's something I use myself on a daily basis. And other than that, though, like nothing in here is going to make a big difference on a DHT and testosterone level at the end of the day. So that's, if you're here probably for androgenic alopecia information, and at the end of the day, these over-the-counter supplements just aren't going to really make a big difference. Unfortunately, it's pharmacologic intervention for the most part. You know, if you have shit lifestyle, you know, fix your lifestyle. But at the end of the day, it's not going to be the thing that determines if you lose hair or not. It's going to be driven by genetics and how much you want to intervene pharmacology-wise more often than not, unfortunately. And that's just, you know, from what I've seen over the years, that is my best conclusion. How unfortunate that is, that's just how it works. So anyways, take from that what you will. You know, maybe one day we'll find out that there's a way to like manage stress that has a direct impact on, you know, some sort of intrinsic like hair follicle HPA axis that has its own regulation of inflammatory cascades that lead to the miniaturization of hair follicles. And there's some way we can intervene with that. But at the end of the day, you know, just in real life, you see time and time again, all these chicks with estrogen levels that are high, super low free test levels and DHT, and they have shit lifestyles, like horrible diets, don't even exercise, go get like fucking blackout drunk on weekends, like just nuked fucking immune systems, just garbage lifestyle, and yet they lose no hair. And they have immaculate hair until they hit menopause, and then it goes to shit a bit from the crushed hormones. But for guys, you know, you have some guys who are like fucking biohackers, guys who are on top of their shit, guys like Dave Asprey, who are like literally rich biohackers on top of everything, optimizing literally inside their genome, looking at polymorphisms and optimizing their diets based on like minor things. And they still experience hair loss and end up getting transplants and stuff like that. And, you know, the reason being is because at the end of the day, it largely comes down to your hormone profile and free androgens relative to everything else, unfortunately. So at least that is my conclusion today from everything I've seen. Like I've seen even dudes with like, you know, the guys who are genetically immune to hair loss. I've seen like chain smokers who have, you know, are stressed out of their minds, and they have, you know, really broken families and like really shitty things going on in their life. And, you know, their hair is immaculate, you know, even though it makes, you know, no fucking sense by any logical conclusion. You would think, okay, this guy has massive stress. He has, you know, a poor diet model. He's smoking. There's all this, you know, inflammation, oxidative stress. And yet he has better hair than the rich biohackers who are who are optimizing literally everything, who are in like hyperbaric fucking chambers, who have like saunas in their house, who like do hot, cold fucking therapy every single day and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, you know, it's just the hand you're dealt genetically and what you do to deal with it and intervene pharmacologically for the most part from what I've seen. So anyways, take from that what you will. Thank you guys for watching. Please like, subscribe, check out my blog, moreplates.com. Follow me on Instagram at moreplates_moredates, Facebook, Snapchat, BitChute, Twitter, TikTok, Apple Podcasts. If you want to support the channel, you can check out anything I'm associated with in the video description below, including my TRT clinic, my recommended lab test panels, pharma-grade hair loss medications you can get through my HRT clinic, Gorilla Mind, nootropic formulas, Gorilla Mode, pre-workout formulas I designed myself from scratch, and anything else I'm associated with. It's all in the video description below. Thank you guys for watching. Talk to you soon.